The sky over Umahia darkened long before the storm arrived, but inside the Okoro household, the atmosphere had been heavy since morning. Adana could feel it, like a warning pressing against her chest. She moved quietly around the small living room, sweeping the floor, keeping her head down, hoping today would pass without trouble. But trouble always found her, especially when her stepmother, Ogechi, was in one of her moods. "Adana!" Ogechi's voice sliced through the silence. Adana froze, her hand gripping the broom tighter. She turned slowly, heart thumping. "Yes, ma'am?" Ogechi stood in the doorway with fire in her eyes and a broken ceramic plate in her hand. "You want to kill me, Abi? You want to send me to my grave? Who broke my mother's plate?" Adana blinked. "Ma'am, I didn't touch—" "You're calling me a liar?" Ogechi lunged forward, raising her hand as if to slap her. "You, this useless girl, brought nothing but misfortune into this house." Adana swallowed hard. Accusations were normal. Blames were normal. She had learned long ago that innocence never saved her. Her father walked in from the backyard, wiping sweat from his forehead. "What is the shouting again?" Ogechi threw the broken pieces on the floor dramatically. "Your daughter broke my plate, the one my late mother gave me. I didn't—" Adana's voice cracked, but her stepmother cut her off instantly. "This girl is a curse, Chike. From the day her mother died, she brought nothing but bad luck. You think I will sit here and let her destroy everything?" Her father's jaw tightened. His eyes, once gentle in her childhood, now carried only disappointment whenever they landed on her. "Adana." She stepped back, shaking her head. "Papa, please, I didn't do anything." But in that moment, she knew the decision had already been made. He wasn't looking for truth. He was looking for peace, and pushing her out had become the easiest way to keep it. "You have overstayed in this house," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "Papa, please don't say that." Ogechi smirked behind him, victorious. Her father continued, voice firm. "Pack your things and leave. Today." The words hit harder than a slap. They shattered her. They confirmed what she feared for years. She was no longer his daughter. Rain began to fall outside, slow at first, then heavy, pounding the roof like drumming fists. The wind blew through the open window, scattering dust and the last bit of warmth in the room. Her vision blurred with tears as she picked up her small nylon bag, the only thing she owned. Old clothes, worn sandals, a torn Bible her mother left behind. No one stopped her. No one said her name. No one looked at her twice. Ogechi folded her arms. Good riddance. Her father turned his face away as if ashamed to even see her go. With trembling fingers, Adana opened the front door. The cold rain struck her instantly, soaking her hair, seeping through her thin blouse, chilling her skin. She stepped outside. The door slammed behind her. She walked, barefoot now, the mud sticking to her feet, her heart cracking with every step. Each drop of rain felt like the world crying with her, yet she had never felt more alone. The streets were blurred through her tears. Cars drove past, splashing water, their headlights blinking sharply in the darkness. She reached the junction and stood under the flickering streetlight, shivering, hugging her nylon bag. "Where do I go now?" she whispered to herself. Thunder roared. And then she saw it, a large black SUV approaching slowly. The headlights were bright, cutting through the rain like a beacon. Without thinking, desperate and trembling, she raised her hand. The SUV slowed. Her heart raced with relief. A taxi, finally. She didn't care where it took her, as long as it was far from the house that rejected her. When the car stopped close enough, she rushed forward, yanked the back door open, and slipped inside, dripping water all over the leather seats. She didn't even look at the man sitting inside. "Please, sir," she said through tears, her voice shaking. "Just drive. I'll pay you when I reach. Just, please, take me away from here." That single sentence was about to change her entire destiny. The moment Adana slid into the back seat of the SUV, the warm air inside racked around her like a shock. The smell of leather, subtle cologne, and something expensive she couldn't name filled her nose. It felt wrong, too clean, too soft, too luxurious for someone like her. But she didn't lift her head. She didn't look at the man seated beside her. Her only thought was escape. "Please, sir," she whispered, voice trembling as she hugged her nylon bag. "Just go. I'll pay. I promise. Just take me anywhere far from here." The driver and the man in the back exchanged a look through the mirror. Ryan Nwosu had been reviewing documents on his tablet before the door flew open. He wasn't used to surprises. Nothing in his life was spontaneous. Everything scheduled, calculated, controlled. But this girl, soaked to the bone, shaking like a leaf, water dripping from her short hair onto his leather seats, she crashed into his world like a storm. He should have been angry. No one entered Ryan's car without permission. But something stopped him. The pain in her voice, the helplessness clinging to her small frame, the quiet way she tried to shrink into herself. It tugged at something he didn't even know was still alive. He leaned back, studying her. She looked young. Too young to be wandering alone in a storm. Her clothes were thin and faded, sticking to her shivering body. She had the kind of beauty that wasn't loud, soft features, rich dark skin, eyes swollen from tears. His driver Musa cleared his throat gently. "Sir, should I?" Ryan raised a hand slowly. "Drive." Musa nodded and pulled the car back onto the road. The SUV moved smoothly through the rain, the wipers thrashing loudly against the windshield. Inside, only the soft hum of the engine filled the silence. Adana kept her gaze fixed on her wet hands. Every vibration of the car reminded her she didn't belong there. Every second made her feel the weight of her mistake. She swallowed hard. Why did the taxi feel so strange? Why did the interior look like something she only saw through shop windows? Why did the tires sound too silent, too smooth? But fear clouded her thoughts. Fear of going back. Fear of the night. Fear of existing in a world that never wanted her. Ryan finally spoke, his voice low, deep, controlled. "What are you running from?" She stiffened, her hands clenched. She wanted to stay silent, to lie, to disappear. But the question pierced her defenses. "A family that never wanted me," she whispered. Ryan's eyes flickered. He shifted slightly, giving her his full attention. "Did someone hurt you?" She inhaled shakily. "Every day." More silence, but not cold silence. Heavy, thoughtful silence. He didn't push her. He didn't ask for details. He simply watched her like he was trying to understand her in ways no one ever cared to. Minutes passed. The storm outside grew louder, but inside the SUV she felt, for the first time in hours, a tiny sliver of safety. When the car turned into a wide, brightly lit driveway, she frowned. The path didn't look like a public taxi drop-off. The gate they passed was too tall, too clean. The guards who saluted the car were too uniformed. Her heart began to thump again. "Sir, this isn't a motor park," she said, lifting her head for the first time. Ryan watched her with unreadable eyes. "That's because this isn't a taxi." Her breath caught. Her eyes widened as she finally took a proper look at him. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned, with sharp features and calm but intimidating eyes. He wasn't a passenger. He wasn't a taxi driver. He was someone else entirely. She shook her head, mortified. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought, please don't be angry. I'll get down. Sir, I'm sorry." Ryan raised a hand gently. "You're not getting out in this rain," he said quietly. Tears filled her eyes again, not from sorrow this time, but from the shock of hearing a man speak with such gentleness. The SUV stopped in front of a grand mansion, lights glowing warmly through tall windows. The entire place felt unreal, like a world she could never belong to. Ryan opened his door and stepped out first, nodding for her to follow him. "Come inside," he said. Not a question, a command, but a soft one. Adana hesitated, shaking, torn between fear and gratitude. But when a loud thunder cracked overhead, she flinched, and her feet moved on instinct, following the stranger who, for reasons she couldn't understand, didn't send her back into the storm. Inside that mansion, Her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. The moment Adana stepped into the mansion, her breath caught in her throat. The foyer was massive. So massive, she felt as if she had walked into another world entirely. Marble floors glowed beneath the chandelier's gold light. A wide staircase curved like something from a palace. Everything shimmered. Glass, light, polished stone. She stood frozen at the entrance, dripping water onto the perfect floor. I shouldn't be here. The thought echoed again and again. Ryan stepped in behind her, closing the door. The soft click echoed in the vast space. Follow me, he said gently. She swallowed, clutching her nylon bag tighter. Her slippers squished softly with every step she took on the marble, the sound embarrassingly loud in the silent mansion. He walked ahead with calm confidence. Broad shoulders, tall frame, dark skin glowing under the lights. Adana could barely look up. Everything about the place felt unreal. Too large, too warm, too safe. Her chest tightened painfully. Safe? No, nothing is safe. They reached a wide hallway, lined with soft wall lights and tall framed art pieces. The air smelled like vanilla and something clean she couldn't name. You're shaking, Ryan said, stopping suddenly. Adana froze behind him, startled that he noticed. I'm fine, she lied, voice small. He glanced at her soaked clothes, her wet hair clinging to her forehead, her trembling fingers. Nothing about her looked fine. Without another word, he walked toward a small panel on the wall and pressed a button. A moment later, the woman appeared, tall, neatly dressed, probably in her 40s. Her uniform was elegant, black and white, crisp and spotless. Good evening, sir, she said with a respectful bow. Welcome back. Good evening, Madam Ruth, Ryan replied. He tilted his head slightly toward Adana. She needs dry clothes, a warm bath and food. Prepare one of the guest rooms. Madam Ruth looked at Adana with a mixture of curiosity and concern, but she didn't ask questions. She nodded elegantly. Right away, sir. Adana's eyes widened in panic. No, please, she rushed out. You don't have to. I can go. I don't want to cause trouble. Ryan faced her fully. You're not going back into that storm. His voice wasn't loud, but it held a finality she had never heard from anyone before. Not even from her father. But sir, your name is? He asked calmly. She hesitated. Then whispered, Adana. Adana, he repeated softly, as if testing the weight of her name. You're safe here. Her throat tightened, and her eyes stung instantly. Safe. She had not felt that word in years. Madam Ruth stepped forward with a gentle smile. Come, my dear, let's get you warm. Adana looked between the woman and Ryan, unsure, trembling. Ryan's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. You didn't enter a taxi, he said, but maybe you entered where you were meant to. Her breath hitched. For a moment, the enormous mansion didn't feel so overwhelming. The storm outside didn't feel as frightening. The world didn't feel as cold. Thank you, she whispered. So softly it was barely a sound. Ryan nodded, then turned and walked toward his study, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. Madam Ruth led Adana upward through the grand staircase. Each step felt like walking deeper into an impossible dream. Warm steam filled the guest bathroom as Adana bathed, the hot water soothing her cold, aching skin. She scrubbed away the rain, the mud, the shame, the rejection, but some parts of the pain clung stubbornly. When she stepped out, fresh and wrapped in a soft towel, she saw a neatly folded set of clothes on a stand. A simple but elegant cotton gown, warm socks, and a robe. Her chest tightened again. Why is he helping me? She dressed quietly, the gown hugging her slender frame. For the first time in her life, she felt comfortable, clean, treated like a human being. Madam Ruth returned with a tray of steaming food, rice, chicken, plantain, and warm tea. Eat, dear. You need strength, she said kindly. Adana sat on the edge of the huge bed, hands trembling as she lifted the spoon. She expected her stomach to reject the food, but instead, Tears spilled down her cheeks as the first bite touched her tongue. It had been so long since she ate a proper meal, so long since someone cared if she did. After she finished, exhaustion washed over her like a heavy blanket. She lay down on the soft bed, too soft, too warm, too comforting. She curled into it hesitantly, as if afraid it would vanish. Her eyes grew heavy, but before sleep fully claimed her, a thought drifted through her mind, a thought that terrified her and comforted her at the same time. Who is this man, and why does he care? Outside, the storm began to fade. Inside, for the first time in years, Adana fell asleep without fear. Adana woke to the soft glow of sunlight streaming through the tall windows of the guest room. The sheets smelled faintly of lavender, and the warm morning air wrapped around her like a protective embrace. For a moment, she didn't move, afraid that the safety of the night had been nothing more than a dream. But the room was real, the bed was real, and the warmth of the mansion seemed real too. Her hands trembled slightly as she ran them over the smooth cotton of the gown she wore. I'm really here, and no one is yelling at me. Her stomach rumbled softly, reminding her that last night's meal, comforting as it was, couldn't last forever. She rose carefully, her bare feet sinking into the soft carpet, and walked toward the large window. Outside, the garden glistened with morning dew, and the fountain sparkled under the first light of day. Birds chirped softly in the distance, a gentle symphony to accompany the calm she had not felt in years. A knock at the door startled her. "Come in," she whispered, her voice still shaky. Madame Ruth appeared, carrying a tray with fresh fruit, a glass of juice, and a small towel neatly folded. "Good morning, Adana," she said softly, setting the tray on the bedside table. "Breakfast is ready, and you might want to freshen up a bit before we head down." Adana nodded, her throat tight. "Thank you, Madame Ruth, for everything." The older woman smiled kindly, her eyes holding a hint of understanding. "You don't need to thank me, my dear. Just rest and eat. Everything else will fall into place." After Madame Ruth left, Adana sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the tray. She picked up a slice of fruit, hesitated, then took a cautious bite. The sweetness exploded softly in her mouth, and she realized she hadn't eaten like this in years. As she ate, a soft knock came again, this time on the connecting door to the hallway. Before she could respond, it opened, and Ryan stepped in. "Good morning," he said quietly, his voice calm but carrying its usual quiet authority. He was dressed in a casual yet impeccably tailored shirt and slacks, sleeves rolled up slightly. "I hope you slept well." But Dana froze for a moment, cheeks flushing. I did, thank you, for everything yesterday." Ryan's eyes softened as he stepped closer. "I trust you're feeling a little warmer now." She nodded, unsure how to speak, her voice barely audible. "Yes, much warmer." He studied her for a brief moment, as if deciding how much to say, then gestured toward the window. "You should see the garden. The morning is beautiful. It might help ease your mind." Adana followed him slowly, each step cautious, her bare feet padding softly against the carpet. Together they walked to the large balcony that overlooked the manicured grounds. The sun reflected off the fountain's waters, and the birds' morning song created a serenity she had almost forgotten existed. Ryan's presence was calm, measured, yet undeniably magnetic. But Dana couldn't help but notice the strength in his posture, the quiet authority in his gaze, and the kindness that tempered it. She felt a strange pull, an almost unexplainable curiosity. Why are you helping me?" she asked softly, her voice barely audible over the soft breeze. Ryan turned to look at her, his expression unreadable for a moment. "Because sometimes," he said quietly, "you help someone not because of who they are, but because something inside you knows they matter." The words resonated in her chest, striking a chord that had long been dormant. Her lips trembled, and her eyes stung as she struggled to hold back tears. For a long while, They simply stood together, watching the morning sun illuminate the mansion and gardens, letting the silence between them speak volumes. Adana realized that the storm of the previous night had passed, not only outside, but within her as well. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of calm. A sense that perhaps, just perhaps, life could be different. And though she didn't fully understand the man beside her or why he had taken her in, she felt an unfamiliar hope spark inside her chest. Maybe someone really can care. And as the sun climbed higher, spilling its golden light across the mansion, Adana's journey into a world of unexpected safety, wealth, and perhaps something more, quietly began. The afternoon sun bathed the mansion in golden warmth as Adana wandered through its vast halls, her bare feet whispering against the polished marble floors. Each room she passed seemed more astonishing than the last, an endless gallery of art, rare books, and exquisite furniture. She could hardly believe such beauty existed, let alone that she was allowed to explore it. Her curiosity eventually led her to a sunlit sitting room that overlooked the eastern gardens. Large windows stretched from floor to ceiling, draped with sheer curtains that fluttered in the gentle breeze. She paused at the edge of the room, taking in the serene view. A private garden adorned with sculpted hedges, colorful flowers, and a quiet koi pond reflecting the sunlight. Beautiful, isn't it? Ryan's voice broke her reverie. Adana jumped slightly, but quickly relaxed when she saw him standing in the doorway, arms crossed casually. His dark eyes, calm and observant, followed her gaze out the window. He was dressed in a soft linen shirt and slacks, sleeves rolled up, hair perfectly styled, as if he had just stepped out of a magazine. "Yes," she admitted softly. I've never seen anything like this before." Ryan smiled faintly. Few people do. Most of the world never sees places like this. He stepped closer, his presence commanding yet comforting. "But it's not just the mansion, Adana. It's the world outside, too. You have to remember that beauty exists in unexpected places, and sometimes in unexpected people." Her heart skipped at the subtle weight behind his words. She wanted to ask what he meant, but the words seemed caught in her throat. Instead, she simply nodded, unsure how to respond. Ryan walked to a nearby cabinet and pulled out 2 small cups of tea, setting them carefully on a low table. "Sit," he said softly, gesturing to the plush chairs. "We can take a moment. No one is rushing you here." Adana hesitated, but then sank into one of the soft chairs, holding her cup tightly. The warmth seeped into her fingers, and for the first time that day, she felt completely at ease. I've never had anyone care like this before," she admitted quietly, her dark eyes fixed on the steam curling above her tea. "Not even my family, not even." Her voice faltered, and she looked down, ashamed. Ryan leaned forward slightly, his gaze gentle but intense. "You've been through a lot," he said softly, "and no one should have made you feel invisible, not ever. But you're here now, and I'll make sure you're treated with the respect and care you deserve." Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her with such calm assurance, such patience. She felt a fragile warmth spreading through her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. After a pause, curiosity overcame her shyness. "Why? Why do you live like this?" she asked hesitantly. "I mean, with so many rooms, so many servants. Why give me?" Ryan's expression softened, and he sat back, studying her carefully. "Because sometimes people cross your path for a reason, and sometimes helping them is the right thing to do, not because of anything they've done, but because you know they deserve it. And last night, I realized you needed that chance." Adana blinked, overwhelmed by the unexpected kindness. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, filled only by the soft rustle of the curtains and the distant chirping of birds. Finally, Ryan leaned forward, his voice softer now. "Adana, I don't expect you to understand it all immediately, but I want you to know, here, you're safe, and I hope in time you'll feel at home." Adana's lips trembled, and she felt tears welling up, though she blinked them back. I don't know how to. I mean, thank you," she whispered. Ryan's dark eyes met hers, steady and sincere. You don't have to say anything. Just be yourself for the rest of the afternoon. They remained in the sitting room, talking quietly about small things, books, flowers, and the gardens outside. Ryan shared stories of his travels, his voice calm and measured, while Adana listened, captivated by his easy confidence and gentle humor. For the first time in her life, she felt that she could trust someone completely. As the sun began to dip behind the horizon, spilling warm gold across the mansion, Adana realized that this day, the day she had been rescued from the storm, the day she had wandered the halls of a world she had never imagined, had changed her. She wasn't just a visitor here. She was becoming a part of something bigger, something safe, something extraordinary. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she wasn't alone, where someone truly saw her, and where perhaps she could finally belong. The next morning, the mansion was bathed in soft golden sunlight. Adana rose from her bed, the cotton gown falling loosely around her frame, and moved to the tall window to watch the gardens come alive. Birds chirped energetically, dew glistened on the manicured hedges, and the fountains sparkled like scattered diamonds. For a brief moment, she simply breathed in the beauty around her, feeling a sense of calm she had never known. Her thoughts inevitably drifted to Ryan, the quiet confidence, the gentle warmth, and the subtle authority he carried. It was magnetic, and she couldn't help but feel drawn toward him. She wasn't sure why, only that being around him made her pulse quicken, her heart flutter in a way it hadn't in years. After breakfast, she wandered the mansion again, this time heading toward the East Wing, where Ryan had mentioned his personal collection of art and travel mementos. The hallways were quieter, lined with antique rugs and paintings depicting distant lands. Every step she took echoed softly, reminding her that this vast place was hers to explore, yet still held countless secrets. Ryan appeared at the doorway of the gallery just as she reached the first room. He smiled faintly, dark eyes assessing her with gentle amusement. "Exploring again?" he asked, voice calm, yet carrying a subtle warmth that made her pulse quicken. Adana blushed slightly. I just want to see more," she admitted, glancing around at the rich tapestries, sculptures, and artifacts that lined the walls. "It's incredible." Ryan stepped closer, his presence filling the room without needing words. "It is, but it's not just the objects that make this place special. It's the stories behind them, the journeys, the people, the memories. And I think you should know some of them." He guided her through the gallery, pointing out pieces he had collected during his travels, a carved wooden statue from West Africa, delicate glassware from Venice, and a series of photographs from his early business trips around the world. As he spoke, his passion and pride were evident, but so was something softer, a side of him he rarely revealed. Adana listened intently, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. She noticed how his dark eyes softened when he spoke, how his strong hands moved gently as he held the objects, how the curve of his lips hinted at a quieter, almost playful side. "Do you ever get tired of it?" she asked suddenly, curiosity overtaking her hesitation. "Of all the work, the traveling, everything you do?" Ryan paused, leaning against the pedestal of a sculpture. "Sometimes," he admitted quietly. "But I've learned that it's not the destinations or the achievements that matter most. It's the people we allow into our lives. Moments of connection, moments of trust. They are rarer than anything else." Adana felt her stomach tighten. His words seemed to speak directly to her, acknowledging the vulnerability she had long buried. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she let herself simply stand beside him, their shoulders nearly brushing, feeling an unspoken closeness that made her pulse thrum with both excitement and caution. They continued through the gallery, and at one point, Ryan stopped in front of a framed photograph of a younger version of himself, standing in front of a vast desert. His gaze lingered on it for a moment before he looked at her. "This place, this was a turning point for me," he said softly. I realize that life is bigger than fear, bigger than limitations. You learn to take chances, to trust, to allow yourself to feel. Adana's eyes met his, dark and wide, her lips trembling. I've never felt that before, she admitted quietly. Trust, or safety, or being seen. Ryan's gaze softened, and he took a careful step closer. Then maybe this is the place to start, he said gently, his voice low, almost intimate, with someone who wants to understand you. Her pulse raced as their eyes locked. For a moment, the gallery faded, leaving only the two of them in a quiet cocoon of golden sunlight, artifacts, and unspoken possibilities. The air between them seemed charged, delicate, thrilling, subtle yet undeniable. Later, they found themselves in a small conservatory filled with tropical plants and flowers. The light filtered through the glass ceiling, casting intricate patterns on the floor. Ryan gestured to a small fountain in the center, the water glimmering like liquid silver. "Sit with me," he said softly, pulling up a chair beside the fountain. Adana hesitated, then obeyed, her dark eyes reflecting the sunlight. They sat in companionable silence, listening to the gentle trickle of water and the distant hum of the mansion. Words weren't necessary. Her presence beside him, his calm demeanor, the subtle brush of his hand as he adjusted a cushion for her, said more than words ever could. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, spilling warm amber light across the conservatory, Adana realized that her life had changed irreversibly. She wasn't just safe, she wasn't just surviving. She was part of a world she had never imagined, and at the center of it was a man who was slowly, carefully teaching her what it felt like to be seen, to be valued, to be desired, even if only in the smallest, unspoken ways. For the first time in years, Adana allowed herself to imagine a future where fear no longer ruled her. A future where trust, connection, and perhaps something more, something gentle and thrilling, yet terrifying, could exist. And for the first time in that golden light, she realized she didn't want to leave Ryan's side. The sky outside the conservatory had faded into deep evening blue, and warm lights glowed through the mansion like golden pathways. Adana stood quietly near the glass wall, watching the first stars appear. Her heart beat softly, steadier now, stronger. She didn't feel like the terrified girl who had run blindly through a storm anymore. She felt seen, safe, different. Behind her, Ryan approached quietly, his footsteps soft on the polished floor. "You didn't eat much at dinner," he said gently. Adana turned, startled by how easily his voice warmed her. I was thinking about leaving," he asked, his expression unreadable. She exhaled slowly. Because yes, that had been on her mind. "I don't belong in a place like this," she whispered. "I've taken too much from you already. Food, shelter, clothes. You don't even know me." Ryan stepped closer, close enough that the faint scent of his cologne wrapped around her like quiet reassurance. "I know enough," he said softly. She shook her head, hands trembling. "I'm just a girl who ran away with nothing. I shouldn't take up space in your world." Ryan paused, studying her for a long moment. Then he spoke with a softness she hadn't heard before. "Adana, you didn't take anything from me. I gave it freely." Her breath caught. "You changed something in this house," he continued. "Do you know how long it's been since I came home to someone who looked at me like I wasn't just a name, a title, a billionaire?" His voice dropped lower, quieter. "You look at me like I'm a man, a person, not a wallet, not a status symbol, just Ryan." Adana felt her throat tighten painfully. "I didn't save you that night," he said. "You saved me." A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. Ryan reached up slowly, carefully, and wiped it with his thumb. His touch was gentle, hesitant, meaningful. "Don't cry," he whispered. "I don't know how to stay in a place like this," she confessed, her voice cracking. "Everything here feels too big, too beautiful, too much for someone like me. Ryan shook his head. This house only became a home when you stepped into it. Her breath trembled. I want you here, he said, not because you need help, not because I feel pity, but because your presence brings peace I didn't know I was missing. Silence wrapped around them, soft, warm, intimate. Adana didn't know when the shift happened, when fear had turned into trust, when trust had turned into something deeper. But standing there under the dim conservatory lights, her heart whispered a truth louder than her doubts. She wanted to stay, but more than that, she wanted him. Ryan, she whispered, eyes glistening. He stepped closer, his forehead leaning gently against hers. You don't have to decide everything tonight. Just don't run. Not from me. Her voice cracked, soft and raw. I don't want to run anymore. Then, for the first time since she had stepped into his life, Adana let herself smile. Small, shy, but real. Ryan smiled back, and the look in his eyes made her knees weaken. A moment later, he spoke again, voice deeper, filled with emotion that pulsed through the quiet room. Stay, he whispered, and let's see where this goes. Adana closed her eyes as the last of her fear melted away. I'll stay, she breathed, and Ryan exhaled, relief and something warmer flickering across his face. Slowly, gently, he took her hand. His fingers were warm against hers, and she held on tightly, as if anchoring herself to the one place she never expected to find safety, or affection, or hope. Together, they stood beneath the soft glow of the conservatory lights, hands entwined, breathing the same quiet air. Two worlds that should never have crossed. Two hearts that weren't looking for anything, yet somehow found everything. Outside, the night sky settled peacefully over the mansion. Inside, a new beginning formed between Adana and Ryan, something fragile, beautiful, and full of promise. Not a fairy tale, not perfection, but the start of a love that had found them both when they least expected it. And in that moment, Adana knew she had not just survived the storm, she had walked straight into her destiny. If you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe for more of the story. See you again in the next story. Thank you for watching.